Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2025 Austrian Grand Prix reactions. I'm Billy, and I'm joined by Bradley.
Hello, how are you, man?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, obviously, interesting race this weekend. Obviously, just gone. I mean, it's quite early. We're doing the reactions. Obviously, early
For
because
once.
Silverstone. Obviously, we're both going to. I mean, I leave on Wednesday morning, so it's only today or obviously tomorrow, Tuesday, that we could have recorded this. But I think doing it this close, this soon after the race, hopefully will make us remember a few more little bits and pieces that maybe would have slipped by us. Well, I mean, for some of us it might have helped, it might not. We'll have to see on that regard.
Definitely would have helped me.
I'll let you down, it's fine. But yeah,
Yeah, I got
no,
my notes.
it was an interesting race. I think it could have been more interesting, obviously, if certain things had gone different ways. But I think what we got was an interesting race and a good showing for hopefully what will be an exciting Silverstone Grand Prix.
I mean, yeah, there was definitely points in that race I was going, gosh, this is getting a bit long now. But you look back at everything that we could talk about and some of the stuff we were treated to, and then also that finish. We had a great finale to the race. And you know what? It was a great Grand Prix and definitely up there. Some of the best this year, I'd actually argue, personally.
I mean, for me, I felt this was sort of more of a middle of the road, sort of your average Grand Prix. I look at races we've had this season. I mean, obviously, there's been worse races. We look at Monaco, we look at China, we look at Japan. I definitely feel, exactly. I mean, there's definitely been better races. I mean, I feel like Canada had a lot more drama. Spain had a lot more drama, had a lot more that we could talk about. Spain, I think, falls kind of in a similar category as Austria in a way, where there were moments, but a lot of the main part of the race was quite dull. But yeah, so an okay Grand Prix, a good Grand Prix, but there's definitely been better.
For sure, for sure. Well, let's get into qualifying now. I've written down 1 point for this, and this is the biggest quality margin between first and second this season. I believe it was just above 5/10. Might need to get fact checked on that, but it is the biggest margin we've had this season. I believe this was probably due to the Pierre Gasly yellow flag.
I would just like to point out that before we started recording, Billy was very confident in saying, "I will not make any mistakes today because it's all in my head."
Whoa! That was not a mistake. That was a slip of the tongue. I'd argue my mistake, Char, is when I say something is this and it didn't actually transpire like that at all. So I'm fine with that.
We're only a few minutes in. We'll see how you go by the end.
I've had a long day, man. Anyway. But yeah, due to Gasly spinning at the end of qualifying, we did see laps have to get aborted from Verstappen, and there was a couple more as well. I'd imagine some drivers were affected.
His lap was affected, and that sort of ruined
the start of his
final lap. But yeah, I mean, I think it was 0.579. I'm just sort of plucking.
If that's bang on,
TikTok's going to be flying. I have just plucked numbers out of thin air. I will, obviously, once you start going on a rant, I will start checking this. But yeah, no, it was a good showing by Norris. I mean, it's probably his strongest track, I'd argue.
Yeah.
So he showed it. He did a really great performance, was looking very comfortable in free practice, looked very comfortable in qualifying, came out with pole. And I think even if Piastri had that final lap, I don't think he would have taken pole.
He did look quicker all weekend. I mean, obviously we had Dunn in the car in FP1, who I think was very impressive as well, I've got to say. I think he put in a great lap time in practice, of course. But Lando got first in every session afterwards. So if he had FP1, we might be sitting here saying he got a Grand Slam, which, based on his form recently, I mean, what a way to come back from it. I can confirm, I did have a look, his the margin between Leclerc and Norris was 0.521. So close.
I'll take that.
Yeah, we'll take it. So yeah, I mean, it was still a good quality to watch even with that at the end. We saw some standout performances as well from Liam Lawson, who was the top Red Bull driver in qualifying and actually the race this weekend. So actually, Lawson pulled a blinder.
Yeah, he's starting to get more comfortable with the car, I think, and I think he's trying to obviously shake off that Red Bull stint. He's looking to sort of come back from that quite nicely. What was also interesting, obviously, is Yuki Tsunoda getting knocked out in Q1. Anyone that is a fan and watches the TikTok will know I definitely made not comments, but I made notion to that, and also his free practice performances over this weekend. If you haven't seen those TikToks, please do, because I think they're funny. If you haven't also checked out the Liam Lawson one, that one's really funny. Do definitely check that one out. Billy doesn't seem too happy about that one. I cannot think why.
I don't have a clue.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, Yuki, I called it. Margins are tight. If you look at that Q1 session, he was only about 0.2 off Max, and he was P17. It's just tough. He's in a really tough phase at the minute, and it's starting to go the way of what we've seen with Gasly, what we've seen with Albon, what we've seen at the end of Perez's time. It's not looking good for him. But if Max, let's say, leaves Red Bull, they're in a really problematic position because they've got a big problem with their car where only one man can drive it. We're at a stage now where 5-6 drivers have tried this car, and every single one of them have failed.
Yeah. I mean, with Liam now performing in the V-Carb as well, and he's actually now got more points than Tsunoda in the championship after this weekend, it makes it very difficult to use Liam as a scapegoat, because I think that was the easy option for Red Bull at this point. Was, right, get Liam out of the car, put Lindblad in if Max stays, and that's how we're going to keep it. Or let's bring in a driver, put Yuki down into V-Carb and have him and Hadjar again, and then we'll just find someone to throw in that Red Bull seat next to Max, and hopefully they perform. But with Lawson showing, hang on a minute, I still put in good performances, I'm still the driver you thought you signed. All of a sudden they're sat there going, great, who's our worst driver out of these lot if we need to put someone in this Red Bull? Because none of these drivers we've got right now are fit for this seat. And I think, wow, I'd love to say that they've learnt from putting all the rookies in, that they wouldn't throw Hadjar in after a year. But they've been prone to do that even recently, so I can't say they don't. But I'd like to hopefully see that they've learned from their mistakes and not throw Hadjar in. But which driver do you take out if Max doesn't leave?
Well, you say that. We thought they'd learnt when they signed Checo after, obviously, Gasly and Albon underperformed. And then they replaced Checo with Liam Lawson, who hasn't had a full season's worth of experience. So who knows? At this point, they could put anyone in that car. Hell, I might even sign for the second Red Bull in a few weeks' time. Who knows? Because there's no plan. It's just, let's keep trying drivers. Let's keep throwing drivers at the wall and see what sticks. And nothing's sticking.
Do you think Vettel coming into as an advisor role would help in any way? Or do you think this is just going to be kind of like, oh, Vettel's an advisor and nothing really changes?
I did see this news over the weekend. He's obviously going to be a nicer person to be around than Helmut Marko. I don't think you'll see Seb making the statements you see from Helmut Marko every so often. So it'll make it perhaps a better environment for these drivers to be in. But if the car's undrivable, I don't see how much of an influence Vettel can have over that.
Yeah,
is the only issue. But yeah, tough time. I think if you're a Red Bull fan, obviously you're going, it's fine. Max will just do Max things, and Max has done Max things this season. But if he leaves, you've got to think from a wider team perspective, you're in a massive bit of trouble. I mean, we're looking at what is essentially similar to the Marc Marquez Honda scenario in MotoGP. Marc Marquez has left Honda, and Honda have been abysmal, really. They've started coming sort of back this season with going away from their old habits. But they have to completely change and in some ways take 2 steps backwards before they can go forward. So we'll have to see. if Max does end up leaving Red Bull, which I don't think he will, personally. I think he's going to stay. Obviously, summer break soon, so I imagine we'll do a driver grid prediction for next year on that. But yeah, no, it's potentially a very tough period for Red Bull if things go badly for them.
I mean, yeah, because if he goes, I mean, we saw what happened this weekend when he got taken out. The only Red Bull they had was fighting for last. And that's not a great situation. Obviously, he had some issues, and he was the only driver to be lapped twice in the final classification.
That's right.
And that is the one Red Bull car that made it. It's not a good look on them at the Red Bull ring. It just adds up. It's not great. It's not a good look. But we know what Yuki can do. So like, no one is going there saying, "Oh, Yuki's an awful driver. He doesn't deserve the seat." Everyone's going, "Wow, what an awful situation he's been thrown into." Because everybody's learned now. Wait, it's the car. It's not the driver. So like when we're going, "Oh, Perez isn't fit for that seat anymore. Look what he's doing. He's fighting for." I mean, what were we complaining about? I think he's fighting for like sixth at one point. We're like, "Gosh, he's not good enough for this Red Bull." They would kill for someone to fight for sixth right now. They would absolutely kill for it because they can't even get to the top 10. I mean, heck, top 15 was hard enough for him this weekend, and there was only 15 drivers that made it to the end. So, yeah, it's a tough period, but we'll see what happens next year, of course. Now, let's move on into the race. Obviously, I have just mentioned Verstappen was out on the first lap, and that was due to a kamikaze move from Antonelli. I think he just didn't expect the cars to concertina up so quickly. Went to the right, locked the rears up, and I'm going to be quite honest here. I'm surprised he only took out one because Liam was close to going out too.
No, I mean, when obviously looking at Antonelli's interview after, and he was very mature about it, and I think the way both he and Max handled it after, obviously they spoke on the track, and then obviously after in the interviews, I think was very mature from the both of them, and it was nice to see. It was interesting to hear him say, because obviously, so he locked the rears, and that's why he had to move to the inside. So his locking of the rears was first as he got on the brake. So then he had to go to the inside, otherwise he was just going to straight up hit Lawson. And then he locks the front and trying to slam on the brakes. And I thought he was going to hit Hamilton initially. And it was just sitting there watching. I was like, he's going to hit someone here. And then it ended up hitting Max. Tricky for Max. Obviously not his fault. Lots of people are saying, "Oh, it's title over," which I think if you're looking at a car performance perspective, yes, it probably is. If you're looking at the driver caliber that is Max Verstappen, and we're looking at it's a similar points gap to what we were saying, "Oh, Lando Norris is going to fight for the title," last year. It's one of those that I don't think you can really count him out just yet. If this gap continues to grow and over the next couple of races, he struggles to get on the podium, yeah, maybe then it is just a settle down, settle for what you can, and focus on next year. But at this stage, I definitely think he's still involved in this fight and can make a big impact.
I think for me, in my head, he's been out for maybe not a couple of rounds, but I'd say probably for me since it's been a while. It's been a while I've been thinking mentally, I think one more race and he's out of this. And I think this round solidified it for me that he's out. And that's nothing based on him. I mean, like, obviously not a great qualifying this weekend. But I think you said before the podcast, if he finished his lap, he was on target for a P4, which is perfect for him. He could have done a lot with that. He might have been able to get past Leclerc as well, like Piastri did off the start. But obviously he didn't. But I think that car's just too far back now. I mean, we saw the strengths of the McLaren this weekend. They were absolutely gone. I think in the first 5 laps, they were 4 seconds up on Leclerc.
And that's
they showcased
as well.
I mean, yeah.
So it's ridiculous.
It's a lot.
The McLaren speed this weekend was possibly the worst we've seen it in terms of dominance.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bode well if you're a neutral fan.
I think this was probably the... Gosh, hang on. Right, future me, cut this. So cut about here. Cut here. And then we'll start in 3, 2. I just got a cheese gone notification that he is live. That is amazing. Can we get a round of applause for Twitch notifications, please?
3 minutes in. Beautiful.
Well done, Twitch.
Peak Twitch notifications right there.
We'll cut it here.
Yep. Just this whole section.
Anyway, so yeah, I think this weekend this was the first one I looked at and went, they're untouchable, where I think other weekends I was like, I think someone could get them. Usually it's Max. Yeah, I think this is the first time I've looked at them and gone, right, they were untouchable this weekend. There was no chance that anyone was going to be near them. Because even like Australia, where obviously they didn't finish 1-2 at the end, but they would have, barring that mistake from Piastri. They were pretty dominant, but even then I was looking at them going, that's defeatable. Like, that is possible to beat. Whereas this weekend, I didn't think at all. Like, I'm looking at this go, that is a 2014 Mercedes in orange. So, I mean, it's a good battle. Obviously, I'm enjoying it as a neutral because we're going to get a new champion at the end of the year as long as one of the other teams doesn't absolutely fly up and McLaren decides to just blow up every single round for the rest of the year.
Hamilton's obviously going to win his age.
I mean, what was he? Almost 30 seconds down for the lead?
Yeah, something like that. We'll get on to Ferrari later.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we'll talk about Piastri versus Norris, but one of the things I do want to talk about, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes just while I'm here.
Yeah.
The switchback from Norris. Oh my God, I felt like getting up out of my seat and just applauding it, because that is one of those things. I love a good switchback. The F1 games, half of my life was just learning how to do a switchback. And oh my gosh, this one from Norris, I could have just done that for about 2 minutes, clapping away. It was a great fight anyway, but that move in particular to keep the position, that was the highlight for me. That was such a brilliant move back. And I honestly think that was race defining. I think that's what won in the race, because it kept Piastri behind and Piastri couldn't run off into the distance.
Yeah, I mean, we look at Norris, I have criticised Norris a lot. And that first stint, that first battle, was beautifully done by Norris. He did exactly what he needed to do, positioned his car in the right place at the right time, got the correct exits where he needed to. That was something that he needed to prove to himself, as well as to us, that he could do that, that he can fight against Piastri, because especially after Canada, especially after, how good Oscar's been this season, he needed to prove that, no, I can fight you, I can beat you, and I'm definitely in play. Because I think, given how he had dominated free practice, dominated qualifying, if Austria had gone on to overtake him and won that race, I would say that would be season defining.
Yeah.
So, it was so important that he showed, not only to himself but to us as well, that he is capable of fighting and beating Oscar in a fight, in a straight fight. No one held back. It was just a great tussle for the lead, and that first stint was such an enjoyable stint to watch. And if that had continued for the whole race, I would probably be on here saying this was one of the best races of the season. It's the best battle we've seen for a win in a long, long time.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, because obviously last race we were watching the fight. Obviously, it didn't last too long. What was it, 3 corners? But that was for P4. This one meant so much more because there was 25 points on the line. If they crash, they lose a 1-2. There's just so much that could have happened there. Obviously, we saw Piastri get pretty desperate in a move that was just so out of character for him. Obviously, in turn 4, almost taking Norris out. It was kind of similar to Perez and Verstappen in Miami, turn 1. And that would surprise me a lot, because Piastri's been known for being this cool-headed bloke. I mean, being very calculated in his moves, not making many mistakes. I mean, that one, obviously, got the flat spot on the tyre, but that was so close to being race-ending.
I mean, it was an interesting move from Piastri. It was one of those that I think it was just another look up the inside as opposed to an actual move that he slightly just misjudged the braking for, and then was like, I now need to slam on the brakes, so this is going to go badly wrong. I mean, the team radio saying it was marginal was fair enough, and I think obviously McLaren have got to do what they've got to do to protect the team's interests at heart. Obviously, that first stint, Lando boxed that lap, I think, of that move. If you care to correct me, I think that's possibly why it was so important, that move as well. So I think he boxed that lap, Lando, and then Oscar stayed out for 2 laps, and they were like, oh, well, how much behind Lando do you want to be? Which really annoyed me, because as soon as Lando pitted, I was like, oh, you know what? They'll pit Oscar next lap. La-di-di, la-di-da, we go again. No. Why would we do that? So 2 laps went by. Then they asked Austria, do you want to be 1.5 seconds behind with tyre delta or 4.5 seconds behind with a larger tyre delta? And he was like, 4.5 seconds. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. That's his choice in there. So then they pit him the next lap. So his tyre delta is like 3 laps, which is not really going to do a whole lot anyway. And then he ends up 6.5 seconds behind him. So you've put him even further behind than you said you would, and not given him the tyre delta he asked for.
So, this one was...
What do you want? What do you want to do in that situation other than completely screw over Austria?
I think, from a McLaren perspective, now, people might not agree with me on this, because obviously the move was made quite soon before Lando pit, but I think after that move, instead of pitting Oscar the lap after, they went, maybe we need to separate them a bit so they don't fight like this all race, because obviously if you have 2 drivers, especially teammates, fighting all race and they crash, you look at that and go, oh, we probably could have avoided that. Obviously then Lando had the slow stop, I believe it was 3.4 seconds. It was so easy for Oscar to overcut him. I'd say overjump, not exactly the term there, is it? Overcut him, and it would have been so easy for him. And obviously we had issues like this with Hungary, where Norris had peripheral strategy, it screwed Piastri out the win, and then we had the whole papaya rules, and that is literally what everybody talked about for the next 3-4 weeks. And I think their way of avoiding it was, right, let's get a tyre delta. You're going to drive on those flat spotted tyres. We're going to separate you up. Let's see if you could get back towards the end of the race, which obviously is how it happened. But they did screw the neutrals out of the fight at that point. But I think if you look back at other teams, when you had Mercedes fighting for it, Red Bull, I mean, they never had a fight between teammates since Vettel and Webber. And I mean, for a championship, that is, obviously, you can talk about Ricciardo, Verstappen, all you want. But we're used to these teams having a number 1 and number 2 driver. This is obviously the biggest kind of difference is the fact this team is equal performance between the 2 of them. And there's no preferential. I think there is a slight bit towards Lando, in my opinion. Whether that's due to loyalty or whether they think this is the guy that's going to bring it home, because obviously Piastri last season, he did kind of fall off towards the end. I don't know, maybe they slightly are leaning towards Lando. But obviously that move was to separate them up. And when you look at it from a McLaren perspective, I get it. I definitely get it. From a neutral perspective, you wanted Piastri to pit that lap, watch Norris fight him back, and then have the 2 go at it for more and more laps, maybe a crash, and then Ferrari 1-2. I mean, absolute cinema. And wow, what a podcast that would have been, and what a P1 podcast. Matt Gallagher would have been absolutely through the roof. But anyway, that didn't happen. But yeah, I can see it.
I mean, they don't need our shout outs, but shout out to the
They don't need our shout out. Oh my god, but we'll take one back for sure.
If that ever happens, then, I'll run around the living room screaming, because that would be a surprise. But yeah, from a McLaren perspective, yes, I can see why they've done it. But whenever I look at these situations, I always try and look at, if this was Aston Martin and Alonso and Stroll were running 1-2, would I want
I
to
mean,
see them
you're
fight that?
dreaming there already.
Well, that's what I mean. But would I want to see them fight for the win? Absolutely, yes, I would. Because it would be so exciting. I would hate it the entire time, but on reflection after the race, I would go, that was a brilliant race. I couldn't watch half of it because it was my team battling, but it was a brilliant race. And we look at Bahrain 2014. Was that not one of the best races of the past decade?
Yeah. Oh,
That
yeah.
was such a good race of a straight fight between teammates just going at it for 57 laps.
Yeah.
Oscar and Lando are both talented drivers. As long as Lando decides to recognise that a car exists that he can't just phase through, they shouldn't. I doubt they would crash because they're both quite skilled. This isn't let's put Mazepin against Latifi in the same car and see what happens. This is two very talented drivers. It's just a shame as a neutral, and it's what really ruined the sort of remaining 50 odd laps or however long it was, and made the rest of the race quite dull, is just knowing we could have had that fight the whole time and we didn't. So, yeah, I then didn't enjoy the rest of the race as much. Even though there was a few bits and pieces going on, it just wasn't the same race for me after that.
I mean, I'm shocked they were allowed to race. I know they're equal, but after what happened last weekend, it was the first weekend where they weren't best constructor. Due to Norris decided to kamikaze Piastri, then into the wall, and they lost points. I mean, obviously, I don't think they are massively worried about constructors right now because there's not really many people to kind of put their 2 pence in against them. But they did lose points, and it's all right saying they're both talented drivers, but that one of those talented drivers crashed into the other driver literally just a solid 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, fair enough to McLaren letting them race at all, because I think if you look at Ferrari, if you look at Red Bull, you look at Mercedes, I think if they were in the same situation where they did have 2 equal drivers and they crashed the week before, there'd be some rules. I mean, obviously, you talk about 2014 Bahrain, and that was a great race, but there's Rosberg and Hamilton are super talented, but then you can also look at 2016 Spain, and crashes happen, mistakes happen. They're still human out there, no matter how talented you are. They're going quick, and split-second decisions could be race-defining. And I mean, obviously, we always saw Oscar go into the back, and Lando, and that was in the first 20 laps. If you had that for the whole race, how much closer would have they got? Personally.
I mean, it's a point. It's just we're here to see racing, and we didn't end up getting that at the end of the day. We just saw them driving around a few seconds apart, which it's interesting you say about, I'm interested they let them race. If they didn't let them race, who are you prioritising? Who are you saying goes ahead? Because if you say Lando, you're then going, oh yeah, Oscar, yeah, you're leading the championship and have been the better driver this season, but you're now staying behind Lando. And that doesn't seem right to me. But vice versa, you're then going, Lando, you've been the better driver this weekend, but you've got to let Oscar through because he's leading the championship. Yeah. And that also doesn't seem fair. I would have preferred, just at this stage, just let them fight. It's you know, it's exciting. It's what we want to see, and especially people like Zach Brown. He's a racer at heart. He would have probably loved it, knowing him. It's one of those. We're here to see racing, and racing is what we got in the first stint, and not so much in the second and third.
Yeah, I mean, away from this fight, we did get a great move by Hamilton around the outside of Russell. I really enjoyed that one. That was a good move. There was some good racing this weekend away from McLaren, but for sure, if that McLaren fight wasn't there, we'd probably be coming into this podcast going very dull. Very few things happened. And like you say, who would you prioritise? Because Oscar's not going to sit back and go, oh yeah, I'll just go 15 points ahead instead of go 29. You know, the opportunity is there for him to get 29 points ahead in the championship. That's a round difference, which that's where you want to be as a championship leader, because if your car goes pop one round, there's no matter what happens, you're still going to lead the points. So, yeah, it would have been a difficult situation for McLaren for sure. Obviously, one last thing I want to talk about with this race, I think this is definitely another main point away from that amazing fight, and that is the lapped cars. Obviously, with the McLaren being so good this weekend, and I guess you could argue maybe we've just the lap cars were slow. Obviously, you got a shorter lap time, so you come up on the lappers quicker. It was like Tesco car park at times during rush hour. I mean, there's probably numerous points we can name here, really. Obviously, you got Colin Pinto. I don't remember who was fighting at the time. I think
Tsunoda.
It was Yuki.
Yeah, it was Yuki.
Yeah. And then obviously at the end you had Lawson and no, not Lawson and Alonso and Bortoletto. How I almost messed that one up, I do not know. But yeah, obviously we had some battles in between the big fight between the McLarens, which did end up being race defining. Obviously, Colin Pinto was trying to get that slipstream off Yuki, just didn't see the bright orange car that has been leading the championship, has been an absolute flash all weekend, right next to him, and just pushes Oscar onto the grass. Oscar did a great job not to kind of overreact it and spin out, because he could have panicked, be like, shit, I need to get back on the track. And then, yeah, just bang. Like, it's so easy, could have ended that way. But it's an interesting one, because I don't think I've ever seen that before, especially between a lapper and a leader.
No, it was just really, really poor from Colapinto, and the penalty he got was fully deserved. Yeah, really tricky for him. It was one of those. I mean, Yuki. Someone else also got 10 seconds for causing a collision. That was Yuki. That was Yuki on Colapinto, wasn't it? Down in turn 4, understeered into Colapinto, and then obviously we had. Yeah, so we had that, and then obviously Colapinto got 5 seconds for forcing Piastri off the track, which it was just terrible. And, you know, I mean, you described it as a Tesco car park. I'd go one further and say it's trying to navigate your way down the M25 in, like, a Lamborghini Aventador whilst trying to get past, like, 70 different Fiat 500s. It was just chaotic. It really just... You really struggled. And we see it in places like Monaco a lot, where it's quite tight. And here it was just because they were coming across groups of cars that were fighting. Obviously, they don't want to give up their position to the car behind them, or they want to keep close to the car ahead. So it just made it difficult to navigate. I mean, we saw Hulkenberg at one point, like, just, I'll take turn 1 and then let you go past just so I can get DRS, but only then will I let you pass. And it was just a bit chaotic, especially towards the last sort of 10, 15 laps. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's one of those.
I don't know if you saw the Oscar Piastri comment that he made over the radio.
I did see that, yes.
About Alpine. If you haven't seen it, it was along the lines of, after all these years, Alpine still try and find a way to, I think he said, F me over.
Yeah. Not
Is
this a non-swearing podcast?
No, because I swore about 2 minutes ago, so...
Okay, wonderful.
Brilliant. I can only apologise. But yeah, I found that quite funny. I do love a savage statement, and that is up there with the definition.
Yes.
And yeah, fair play. I mean, I'd probably say this weekend is probably the most emotion we've seen out of Oscar, because he is just so cool and calm normally. Obviously, having that issue with Colapinto. He made a couple of, obviously that turn 4 error was kind of out of character as well. We saw a couple of things from him that just weren't him at every other round, so it was weird. I don't know if I'd break it down to championship kind of getting on him. I think this is more trying to break down the deficit that he felt he had to Lando across the weekend, and trying to make this weekend one that he could put his foot down and be like, look, he beat me in both practices, qualifying, and he looked great. Yeah, I still got 25 points out this weekend, and he only managed 18. Because if you did that, like I said earlier in the podcast, we'd be sitting there going, this is Oscar's championship, and Lando's going to have no say in it. Whereas we come out of here going, with all the mistakes Lando's made and all the issues that maybe Lando's had this season, he's 15 down, only 15. He wins 2 races, he's a point down in the championship. And with how good that McLaren was this weekend, that is not impossible at all. That is so imaginable. And we've got a title fight here that I think could go down to the wire.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And yet we look at Australia. If Norris is the one that goes off and Piastri doesn't and picks up the win, he gets an extra 23 points for his tally. Say Norris finishes where Piastri doesn't, loses 23 points. That's a 46-point swing. We'd then be looking at a 61-point lead for Piastri. It's
crazy.
Tiny little things can have such a massive impact in this season. And I think Australia is still one of those that's going to prove huge in this battle we've got between the 2 McLarens. And if Lando is the one to eventually come out on top by a few points, I don't think this race is the one Piastri will look at where he lost it. It will be Australia.
His home Grand Prix, no less.
Yes. And who knows, who would have guessed at the beginning of the season that potentially round 1 could be the most season-defining race?
I mean, you can't win the championship around 1, but you could definitely lose it. And, I mean, that would say it all, wouldn't it?
It would.
All right, with that, let's move on to the Gouda scale. I'm just going to run through the numbers. I've got my laptop here, which is why I'm looking this way for our video listeners, video watchers. I'll get my words out eventually in one of these podcasts. We'll see. Okay, with that, so Lando Norris, I gave a 10. Bradley gave an 8, averaging out to a 9. I gave Piastri an 8. Bradley also gave an 8, averaging out to an 8. Verstappen, we both agreed on a 5. For Yuki Tsunoda, we both agreed on a 1. For Leclerc, we both agreed on an 8. For Hamilton, I gave him a 6. Bradley gave him a 7, averaging out to 6.5. For Russell, I gave him a 6. Bradley gave Russell a 7, averaging out to a 6.5. Antonelli, I gave him a 3. Bradley gave him a 2, averaging out to a 2.5. Alonso, we both agreed on a 7. Solid weekend for him. Stroll, I gave him a 3. Bradley gave him a 4 because he's biased, averaged out to a 3.5. For Albon, I gave him a 4 because I'm biased, and Bradley gave him a 3, averaged out to a 3.5. So the Gouda back drivers both got 3.5 this weekend. That's fine by me, with 2 completely different weekends. Sainz gets a 2 from me, and Bradley gave him a 3, averaged out to a 2.5. Hadjar, I gave a 6. Bradley gave him a 4, averaging out to a 5. Lawson, I gave him an 8. Bradley gave him a 7, averaging out to 7.5. Gasly, I gave him a 6. Bradley gave him a 5, averaging out to 5.5. Colapinto, I gave him a 4. Bradley gave him a 3, averaging out to 3.5. Behrman, I gave a 7. Bradley gave him a 6, averaging out to 6.5. Ocon, I gave an 8. And maybe one of the first times I've given Ocon a higher rating than Bradley has. Bradley gave him a 7, averaging out to a 7.5. Hulkenberg, I gave an 8. Bradley gave him a 10, averaging out to a 9. Bortoleto, I gave a 9. And Bradley gave Bortoleto an 8, averaging out to 8.5. So a couple of interesting ones in there. I think probably the funniest one is the fact we gave Stroll and Albon the same exact score, yet one of them actually had a chance to prove themselves this race and one didn't.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I will say with Stroll, actually, is the strategy that Aston Martin did that worked with Alonso to put him into the points, they just didn't do with Stroll. They just went, nah, I don't feel like doing it. Which I don't get, given Stroll's already proven he can go long on tyres this season, in China of all places, a track that's known for being hard on its tyres. But no, we'll just stick him on the two-stop with everyone else, rather than try the one-stop, because if it doesn't work and doesn't get points, he wasn't getting points anyway.
Yeah.
But no.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That would be the logical thing to do, seems it worked for Alonso.
I'm still kind of putting this performance down from Stroll due to his injury. I think it's difficult to get in that car at 100% ever form, and I doubt he's at 100% with that injury. Yet it's only been 3-4 weeks, if that. So yeah, I think this one for Stroll, because obviously he's proven himself this year that he can do a job, especially when Alonso was struggling. Obviously, Alonso's had 3 points finishes in a row. You might have to... Yeah, that's right. Okay. Great statistician from me. See me at the stat pad. But yeah, I think... You'll get all the wrong stats. But yeah, I think Stroll has proven he could do a job this year, and I think injury was a big part of this weekend as well as strategy.
Yes. I mean, look, it's fine. He's going to win Silverstone, and you'll never hear from me again as I become a touring bard that just goes wherever Stroll goes. And there we go.
I'll see you mic next year then.
If you don't see me after this podcast, well, after Silverstone Predictions podcast, you know where I am.
And with that nonsense, we're going to go on to driver of the day. Bradley, I'll let you start. Who was your driver of the day?
My driver of the day was Nico Hülkenberg. I mean, I'm wearing the Sauber top. Started last, so quality wasn't great, but in the race really showed his experience. Got P9, got some points, and that Sauber is really looking like it now belongs in the midfield, which last year it really didn't. So it's good to see. I mean, we're looking at like the 10th placed team. Well, 10th placed team is Alpine, but we're looking at a fight between P6 down to P9 of all the teams having like 25 points and above. And it's really good to see because the spread of points has been nice for all the teams. Obviously, Austrian are involved in that fight, and that's annoying for me. Because I would love to be up there, like challenging for podiums and stuff, but that's not the case at the minute. We'll have to see how the next few years go. But it's a good fight, and seeing different teams and different drivers scoring points is always interesting.
I mean, yeah, this weekend was great from Hülkenberg. Obviously, not a great qualifying. For my driver of the day, I have gone to the other side of the garage. I have gone for Gabriel Bortoleto. This is one of those performances where you go, okay, he's got the car, and now he's proven what he can do, and wow, did he prove himself. I believe it was P8 in quali.
Yes.
Yeah, P8 in quali, and I think he translated that to a P8, which is great from him, and he did a great job. It wasn't smooth sailing. That P8 to P8 may look like a pretty simple one, but he had to make moves because of strategy differences. Obviously, he had a great fight with Alonso at the end, which could have been a P7, and I mean, it would have been crazy if it was. But I think he really showed that driver that we saw in F3 and F2 who won both those championships in the rookie year. And I mean, there's been flashes from him, but this was a showcase this weekend, in my opinion, from him. And I hope he carries this on. And let's hope he carries this on into next year, because I'm an Audi man. And when that Audi comes in, Gabriel Bortoleto is going to be my guy. And if he...
That means I'm going to have to buy an Audi top. I've just realised. Right. Okay. Add to my collection of F1 tops, where I've got like, 12 at this point?
And you'll have to get a Cadillac one as well.
Oh, Christ, I will, won't I?
You've got 2 to get next year.
Right. There we go. But yeah, no, great drive from Bortoleto. It was nice to see. Hopefully, like you say, hopefully he can continue and hit this up.
We can only hope, because I really enjoyed what I saw out of him. And more fights between him and Alonso. Let's just get him versus the boss all the time. I love that.
Commentators love bringing it up, so you know.
Oh, don't they? They like bringing that up more than...
I don't know if you do this, But whenever you're watching an F1 race, I mean, if you're watching with people, I don't know if you watch it with people or if you're on your own. So if you're on your own, you're unlikely to talk to someone that's not there, unless you have an
Yeah.
imaginary friend, but I'm doubting that. So I watch it with family, and then I'll like turn to my family and I'll say something, and then immediately, as soon as I finish saying it, the commentators repeat it word for word, and it's like, just get me
Yeah.
on there, please. Like, when someone did the switchback, and I was like, yeah, he'll go, thank you very much, and then the commentator said the exact phrase, and I was like, come on, please.
Now, one thing I did get, so I did watch this with my family as well, and when Lando Norris had the slow stop, I honestly, I can't prove this in any way, but I promise you I did it. I said that was 3.4 seconds. With that, the graphic showed at 3.4. I just felt like walking out the room, dropping the mic. I was done. I felt like the biggest boss ever. That was me. I felt superhuman for those fleeting 2 minutes afterwards.
Wonderful. But yeah, no, it's one of those. If we move on now to Under the Radar.
Yeah, so for this weekend, I've gone for Esteban Ocon. He started P17 this weekend, and he got up into points. And I don't think that was brought up enough. I'd say this weekend, the TV direction was very equal in who they showed. I was looking at the grid and going, no, I remember them showing him, I remember them showing him, I remember this, I remember that. Ocon, they didn't show too much, and it definitely was never mentioned that he started P17 and made those 7 positions up to get to P10. And I think that's a solid performance out of him. Obviously, Behrman finished P11, but he started in 15th. So Ocon had a bit more of a job to do, and he did a great job. Obviously, he's been in fine form recently. I still should have picked him for Shock Q1 exit, but that's for next weekend.
I
I can't think
immediately
of next
messaged you
weekend.
after Q1 that you should have gone for Ocon, so it's really funny that Behrman made it in and Ocon didn't.
Honestly,
Yeah.
right, so I was delayed. My broadcast was delayed, right, of qualifying. I got the message before qualifying even ended that Ocon was out from Bradley this weekend. I didn't even have to watch the rest of Q1. I knew exactly that I wasn't getting my 2 points. Anyway, who did you go for Under the Radar?
Under the radar, my under the radar is Liam Lawson. I feel like that's just because a lot of the talk, obviously, his quality performance was rightly praised, but obviously for the race, I feel like a lot of the focus was on, the double sample points, the McLaren 1-2, the dominance, the fight we had at the start, obviously the Anthony Max incident. Nobody's really talking about the fact Lawson kept P6. The top 6 stayed in their spots, other than obviously Piastri getting past Leclerc. But other than that, the top 6 stayed in their spots pretty much. So obviously there wasn't a lot of action in terms of raw overtaking up at the front. But he did well to just hold it ahead of cars. I mean, it was obviously helped by Max and Antonelli, arguably the 2 cars that were most likely to overtake him, taking themselves out in turn 3. But did the job that he needed to do. Beat Hadjar, who tried a one-stop, didn't really work out in the end. So I think they picked too early for the one-stop to work, and then sort of held on for a fleeting hope that was sort of fading. But we know Hadjar's been good this season. It's one of those off weekends where he's just slower than Lawson, and that will happen from time to time. But it was a strong performance from Lawson, and one that I felt maybe should have got more credit than it did.
For sure. I mean, obviously, when the other driver to do the one stop so well was Alonso, who is widely regarded to be one of the best drivers on the grid, if not the best. I mean, I think that just showcases how well he did this weekend. And like you say, he didn't really get his flowers for his race performance, morely for quali, but I mean, it was a great overall weekend for him. Let's go on to shock of the race. I'll let you start this one, Bradley.
Right, so my shock of the race really is, we're in the top. Sauber's pace this weekend was very competitive, very much in that midfield fight. And given how terrible they were last year, it's refreshing to see. And we know they can be in this midfield fight. We've seen it in seasons before. Obviously, when Raikkonen, when Bottas first joined, and when Raikkonen first joined, and when in Leclerc's rookie season, they've had seasons where they've been competitive pace-wise. And last year was disappointing to see. And I mean, obviously, with them going to Audi next year, it's looking like they're taking steps in the right direction. And if Audi can then take another step forward, could be very interesting to see where they end up. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be interesting to see. And yeah, the pace was refreshing and a nice surprise this weekend.
I mean, I do think after kind of watching them this race, I think it kind of solidified it for me. This is such an underrated driver lineup because obviously you got Bortoleto who's finding his feet, but there's flashes of brilliance there. But then Hulkenberg, I think he's kind of came into his own really at this team, and he's kind of taken the reins and he's showcased how good he is. And who knows if that Audi is closer to the top pack next season? Maybe his first podium in F1. I mean, he's getting close. Obviously, normally when he is that close, he kind of implodes at the sight of a P3. But who knows? He looks like a different driver, and I'd say since he's come back to F1, he hasn't really had that opportunity to get close to the podium. But I think this could be an opportunity where if that Audi is up there next year, he could get one. But we'll see. That's just purely speculation.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
I mean, after his years at Force India, obviously the team I support now, Aston Martin. I would love to see him get a podium. It's a shame he hasn't. He's definitely deserved one through some of his performances in his career. So hopefully, fingers crossed, next year Audi will hope to carry him to a podium. But that is next year's talk. If you want to move on to your shock of the race.
Yeah, my shock of the race was Oscar Piastri's turn 4 attempt. Obviously, I think I've mentioned this a few times, but this is so out of character from him. Obviously, I don't know, maybe it was the look up the inside got a bit too far, but it was so close to ending the race. And this is just a mistake we've never seen out of Piastri, and it's not often we see these sort of things from him because he is normally that driver that just looks like nothing could faze him. Like he could see a massive turn 1 crash and he'd still go full blast into it. He just seems so unbothered normally, and I think there was a crack that started to show through not just that move, but maybe some other points throughout the weekend. And it was interesting to see because I think, I mean, from my perspective, when I'm doing predictions, I'm going, well, is Oscar's bad weekend's probably a P4, but that's still solid and he's going to get points anyway. He's going to do a solid job. If I think Lando's going to do great, whack on McLaren for best constructor. Like, I've got so much confidence in Oscar, and that confidence hasn't gone. I think he showed how good he was. Maybe if the lappers weren't so bad, maybe he would have got past Lando with the last lap dash. I don't know. But that move was definitely the point that stood out to me after the race. That was the biggest point.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, obviously Lando given a 6-second lead, gifted another 2 seconds thanks to the Colapinto incident and then the last lap back markers, and still only wins by just under 3 seconds. It's one of those. I reckon on a different day Piastri wins that race, but not meant to be. I believe we are now moving on to the prediction championship.
It is, and we have had someone take the points lead this weekend. Obviously, we came into this weekend tied on 32 points. Bradley had made his deficit back up, and he will take his form with him into Silverstone. He has now got a 1-point lead. He's leading the points with 36 after getting best constructor, shock Q1 exit, and a Lando Norris pole position. Clip that for TikTok. And for me, I got a +3. Didn't get +4 though because Behrman decided, no, I will make it out of Q1 this weekend. If only I picked my favourite Frenchman. I got best constructor, the Lando Norris pole position, and the Lando Norris win. So I was right to put my eggs in Lando Norris basket, but it didn't give me enough points to keep Bradley behind or on level terms. So yeah, it stays close going to Silverstone. Obviously, next time out, we will be in person if we can figure out how we're going to do it. And, well, not how, where we're going to do it in Silverstone. And you'll see a podcast with both of us in person for the first time. And I'm sure that'll be an interesting watch as we figure out who's actually going to do great around Silverstone.
I'll look forward to it. It should be good fun. It's going to be interesting as well. Obviously, TikToks over that weekend will mostly probably just be like, oh my god, look, car.
We're here.
We're here. We are at Silverstone, which I am super excited for. I believe is this your first F1 race as well?
Yeah, I've been planning for years and it's just never materialised, and this is the first one.
There we go. So both of our F1 race debuts in a way, not in that sense in terms of driving.
I'm so glad you said that word. I thought you were going to say another word.
But yeah, I know the word you was thinking of, and that was what I was going to go towards, but I had to think of another way to sort of phrase it. So we're going to go with debuts, even though we're not driving the cars, unless, Sonoda does badly in practice, and then, if they want to give me a call, sure. I'll figure it out. I'll put it in my diary. But yeah, no, it's going to be good fun. I'm super looking forward to it. Podcasts will be interesting. It will be obviously trying to figure that out. But should be good fun for you guys to see, especially on the TikTok as well. I mean, you might have to send me some videos of your POV just for me to put up there. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just me going, yo, I'm fanboying. But, I mean, you probably will be similar. So there we go.
Yeah, I'm just going to be in nerd F1 heaven for a weekend, I think. And, I mean, I go with my dad, and he's not shut up about it for a week as well. So we're just going to be absolutely unbearable, I think, all weekend.
Yes, I mean...
it's going to be great.
I mean, I'm going with a contact of mine that the podcast will be known to... Well, the podcast is known to, but the people that watch the podcast will figure out the contact soon enough. I won't give any more details than that because I am excited for that to happen as well.
It's going to be awesome.
It's a scoop, but there we go. It's one of those.
Spoiler alert, we're going to have a journalist on soon enough, and he knows his stuff. So keep an eye out on all of our platforms, on your favourite listening platforms, maybe your favourite watching platforms these days. I'm sure there'll be TikTok clips soon enough too. Thank you guys so much for the support on the TikTok. We are over 15k views, which is absolutely insane.
In 2 weeks, that is crazy support. It's been lovely reading all your comments. Keep obviously putting them in. I will respond to as many as I can. So I'm running the TikTok. That's why it's just multiple memes of my face. But there we go. I'll try and get some of Billy in, but there's only so many I can do.
We'll see. I mean, obviously, we'll try and keep it equal across the weekend. We'll be showcasing our POVs on TikTok. Go and take a look. All the BTS is kind of going to be there. And yeah, I mean, keep an eye out. Obviously, you haven't gone to go have a look. It's GoudaGP on TikTok. If you want to watch these podcasts, maybe you're someone who likes seeing someone talk while they talk about it as opposed to just listening. We are on YouTube, and you can watch the full podcast on there, GoudaGP, an F1 podcast. And with that, I think we've wrapped up everything.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Spotify, Amazon Music, etc. We're available on most platforms. There we go. We're available on most platforms. If there's a platform we're not on, I can't think of any off the top of my head that are notable that we're not on. But if we're not, then, we are obviously for free on YouTube. We're for free everywhere, but obviously YouTube's probably an easy way to get access to us, and then obviously clips and games and other fun stuff on the TikTok if you want to see, sometimes a bit of a less serious side to our style, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you do enjoy games, sort of something you would see on a football sort of channel, we are starting to bring in games and cool little trivia challenges against each other. So keep an eye on the TikTok. That's where you'll be able to see all of that. It's a good time, and we've already had some great fun with that already.
Yes.
All right, with that, thank you guys so much for watching or listening, however you are taking in this podcast. We will see you later on this week for the British Grand Prix. We're excited. I hope you're excited, and have a good day. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Have we started recording yet?
Welcome back to the GoudaGP podcast.